Joining me now, a member of the Knesset in Israel, Dan Illouz. Dan, thank you for being back with us. Let me start with what we just heard from Turkey, calling Israel a terrorist state, given what we're seeing happen at the hospital. Can two things be true at once? Israel has the right to defend itself. The U.S. is supporting that. But doing so, if it's disproportionate to the civilian casualties that we're seeing in Gaza City, does Israel have the responsibility to change its strategy?
So first of all, Turkey's comments are completely ridiculous. We know that Turkey's president is a member, his party is a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. His ideology is not very far from Hamas's ideology, so it makes sense that he will take sides on this issue and stand on Hamas's side. But he's very far from being a democratic leader that likes freedoms and democracy the way we in the Western world do. When it comes to your question, Israel does everything that it can in order to spare civilian lives. We try to be as targeted as possible. When we're talking about the hospital, we warned about this hospital being used as a headquarters for Hamas already several times. According to international law, one warning is enough, but we've done it several times. We've helped sick people and part of the staff of the hospital move out of the hospital in order to go to a safer place. And we do everything we can in order to safeguard civilian lives. However, we have to be very clear. If we let Hamas use civilians as human shields and this way spare any cost that they have to pay after doing such a horrible terrorist attack as they did on the 7th of October, if we let them do that, then we encourage terrorist groups all around the world to use civilians as human shields. We make that a very effective method in order to fight for terrorists to fight the free world, because then they'll all do the same thing. And therefore, it's very important for the free world to be very clear. While we try to pinpoint our attacks, while we try to save civilians and spare civilians, we cannot allow terrorists to hide behind civilians, because by doing that, we would just be encouraging more terrorist attacks, encouraging more civilians being used as human shields, and we'd be encouraging more of the things that we as Westerners, as freedom lovers, do not like, do not condone, and do not want to encourage. And so it's very important for us to blame all of the civilian casualties only on Hamas, which are the people using these civilians as human shields.
Dan, anything more that you can share about the hostage negotiations and a possible exchange for up to 70 women and children being held now by Hamas? Is that any closer to happening?
So the details, of course, of the negotiations are very secretive, and they're not something that we discuss in the media. It's clear that we as Israel made it very clear that the hostages, releasing the hostages, is one of our main priorities. We've said from the start that we believe that military pressure will only enhance the chances of getting to a deal. I think this is what we're seeing right now. As Hamas is feeling the heat of the military operation, then they're becoming more forward in the negotiations. However, Hamas is a terrorist group, and therefore negotiations might be moving forward, and then at the last minute we'll see that they're just lying in order to try to gain some time. And so I would be careful getting to any conclusions as to an imminent deal, because we're dealing with people who aren't afraid to lie, to hide behind civilians, to commit terrorist attacks, and so those are the types of people we're dealing with. The negotiations, even if one is optimistic about them, can turn around in 1 second.
Dan Illouz, a member of the Knesset in Israel. As always, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. Go to NewsNationNow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.